Hi, good morning. Bright. Let's get into your attic and take a look around. I promised you I would put together a little video, and here it is. The first thing I wanted to do to get a glimpse at is just how we would treat the hatch, the push-up hatch there. We want to make sure that attic plane, as I was mentioning, I think to you, is sealed and insulated all the way across, including a small area like a 2x3 hatch that needs to be, sealed and insulated as well. So the first thing that popped out to me when I got up in your attic is the fact that, as I mentioned, those two main junction boxes attached to the supply or the handler, the air handler, are, for lack of a better word, naked. They're not insulated, and that just doesn't make a whole lot of sense because they're easily accessible. And then, what you see there is where the two main supplies are coming off of the main duct there. Just the way that they're taped together, it just looks like, somebody through time has, sort of noticed that they're a little bit leaky. And by insulating and sealing up that entire box, you're also going to seal all of those connections, and that's going to go a long way. So here, I just wanted to show you, and this is a newer home, a 2003 home, so you can see where they put flashing around the flue to make sure that there's not an open cavity at the attic floor, but two problems there. One, it's not sealed, air sealed that is, and two, the insulation is in contact with that flue. So we want to do a few things there to separate the insulation and also seal it. I wanted to spend a little time, letting you see your attic. I cut out some of my climbing, but here I kind of went back to the main handler because, the connection points there where the supply, I guess, junction box comes off of the handler is just very loose and leaky. And really, once again, not to beat a dead horse, but that is exactly what needs to be sealed up and made better. So I wanted you to get a look at, and a couple times here in the video, how we do that. We have these handheld spray foam kits, and you can see what we're doing. We're just coating that duct area, and it just seals and insulates all at the same time. And the insulation expands out. It actually gets a little bit, hard, and it expands out and creates a really good barrier around your ducts. And this is the return side at the other end of the handler. And I wanted you just to see how that too should also be insulated and sealed. Over to my right here, I left this part of the video. You can see, well, it's going to be tough, but the yardstick there was at 10 inches. And that's about, as I mentioned to you, in line and right with the age of the home. And as I sort of make my way, to the right of your house, I guess, I want to just to get a look at the insulation, which you can see is not in terrible shape, and you've got a healthy amount of it. But there are a few places that, as you're about to see, that really needs a little bit of love, a little attention. And because the age of your home, you have the sprinkler lines that run through the attic. And this is a technique that they use. They put those big bats of insulation over top to sort of trap some of the heat from the house that radiates up so the pipes don't freeze in those cold, cold winter days. What I like to see is that happening, but I want to see a good blanket of insulation on top, and you'll see what that looks like here shortly. The other thing I wanted you to just sort of get a feel for, and there's a couple ways to look at it, but one of the things you'll notice if you see that duct sort of dead center there, and I'm sort of turning now, but you see how that duct is draped using a suspender piece of canvas, and the duct sort of makes a 90-degree turn and goes down. So we want to maybe work on getting those to run a little bit more smooth. Here, I wanted to point out your bath fan, and I wanted to take this as an opportunity to segue into what air sealing looks like. So a bath fan is a penetration through the ceiling through the attic floor. So we want to seal around any penetration, and that's kind of what this looks like here. And you're going to also see another example. This is a naked attic, but it's a good example of how we air seal all of the cracks, crevices, all of the places that electrical, all the things you just saw are going on beneath your insulation as well. And then I'm a little behind here, but I wanted you to get a feel for what a baffle is. So you'll see here that the baffle extends up from the eave, and you currently have baffles, but they're not going to be large enough. So I wanted you to get a feel for what that looks like. And you can see how the insulation gets piled up nicely underneath and maintains that air channel for intake so that you maintain ventilation in your attic. So this is now me making my way over to the master bedroom side of the house, and I wanted to point out a couple of things going on over here as well. All of the insulation at the attic floor is relatively the same, a little less traveled on this side, of course, but there's still a few places that need some attention. So here is one of those junction boxes that where the supply branches off of so you have the main supply that comes up to the smaller junction box, or the junction box, and then the smaller supplies that branch off into the room. But here, I just wanted you to get a feel for the insulation over top of your bathroom and where it needs to really be buttoned up. That, along with a few other things, are what are causing your bathroom and your room to be uncomfortable. And then here is where you notice that I finally kind of noticed that duct that's going over top of the small toilet room in your master bathroom is disconnected. So I wanted you to get a look at that closely. You see, I took a picture. Really wanted you to see that and how that was just laying sort of just apart from where the connection should be. Somebody tried to do some work to it, looks like, but I think what's going on is the line is just a little short. So I wanted you to get a look at another project that we did recently, very similar to what you saw before, and we can really get in there and seal up those boxes and seal up those connection points where those flex ducts come into that box so that you don't have to worry about that again. And it also just makes for a more efficient, machine, because once that foam, as you can see, cures, nothing is passing through, no air. It's now insulated much better, and those connections don't become liabilities. All right, let me get my bearings here. It's a little tough to get back further beyond that point. It can be done, meaning getting to where your area over your bathroom needs to be insulated. But I pointed out to you when we were walking around that gap in the wall that was sort of coming down, that angled wall. Here is just an example of how we would treat a large gap like that at the attic floor. You could see how we use the foam board and then we seal around it. And then the other thing I want you to notice here in the background is there's a portion of that ceiling over your bathroom that's also not insulated. The insulation has been removed or fell down. You can see where the X marks that spot. So as I made my way back, I was sure, because I knew that I was sort of kicking around your ducts and things like that. I knew I had made it a little bit worse. So I made sure to get your duct, and you'll see here, connected to the best of my ability. I didn't have any tools or anything, but that can easily be fixed even if you decided you didn't want to do any work at this time. That can easily be fixed just as a sort of a side job if you don't feel comfortable going up in the attic. That's something I could definitely do for you with the right tools. It could also be fixed as part of the larger scope of work as well. So you see there that I connected, and then I wanted you to get a look at, as I mentioned earlier, a finished attic, an attic that is R49, that's been air sealed, that has proper bathroom ventilation. Although yours is vented out and insulated, so that was good, and that's an sign of the age of the home. But you just get a feel here for what a well insulated attic looks like, and that's my presentation for you. I hope you found it to be useful, and I will follow up shortly with your reports. Thanks so much, Bright.